Hello, I'm Tom Francis from PC Gamer, and about a month ago I flew out to Montreal to see Deus Ex 3, which they're now calling Deus Ex Human Revolution. It was much better than I was expecting, so we're doing a whole week of cool Deus Ex stuff on the site. As part of that, I wanted to talk you through all the art and screenshots they put out, and just tell you absolutely everything I know about them. If there's anything you want to know I don't cover, whether it's about these shots or just about the game in general, then sign up and leave us a comment here, because I'm going to answer all those questions at the end of the week. We haven't really done anything like this before, so let us know what you think of it. I've also got PC Gamer staff writer Rich McCormack here with me to ask me questions and hopefully shut me up if I get boring. Hello, Rich.
Hello there. So, with this first piece of art, what are you showing me, Tom? It seems to be a half-naked man smoking a cigarette.
What I'd also showing you is that you play the manliest man ever, because he has robot arms, an assault rifle, a shot of whiskey, and 2 silencers and a pistol on his desk. So you're Adam Jensen, who is like a security guard for a cybernetics firm. You get your arms blown off in an ambush right at the start, and they are replaced with robot arms by who we don't know. But it probably has something to do with a global conspiracy of some kind.
Or Futurama's robot devil, possibly.
Yeah. So if you zoom in on the gun there, you can actually see that the pistol he's got on his desk comes with a little silencer that you can screw on, and the thing the gun's resting on, I'm pretty sure, is the silencer for the assault rifle that he's got on his lap.
That is one big silencer.
Yeah. And the assault rifle itself, you can actually see that it's got what I think must be a like underslung grenade launcher on the bottom there. It's got a weapons mod system, so obviously you upgrade yourself in terms of augmentations and stuff, but you also upgrade your weapons with initially it sounded like it was going to be sort of in a kind of equivalent system, so like you'd either upgrade yourself or a weapon or something, but actually I asked them about that specifically, and it's a lot more like Deus Ex 1, where your augs are completely separate, and weapon upgrades are just things you buy from, jerks you meet who charge you 3,000 credits for them. There was something weird about the economy in Deus Ex 1, wasn't there, where every time you found someone who was selling something, it would be just absurd amount of money.
Yeah, no concept of supply and demand.
But you could kind of get around it just by hacking into ATMs.
Yeah.
So this is Farada Malik, who is your pilot at some point. Basically, the demonstration I saw was 6 hours into the game, so I don't know whether this is part of the setup of the game or whether she's someone you meet along the way. But as you can see written on a jumpsuit, she works for Sarif Industries, which is one of the biggest cybernetics firms. The whole kind of setting of the game is at a time when mechanical augmentation is just becoming a really big deal. And
is that prior to Deus Ex 1 then?
Yeah, 25 years before Deus Ex 1, 2 years before JC Denton is born, and the augmentations that are kind of coming into prominence now are basically the forerunners of the shitty metal limbs that Anna Navarra and Gunther Herman have in Deus Ex 1.
Does that mean everybody's got kill switches built into them then?
Actually, that's a good point. I didn't ask about that. That'd be awesome. Or if you could just use a kill switch just to shut down all their robotic things. So if you have robotic legs, they kind of slump.
Crawling around.
There's a little bit of revisionism going on in that Gunther Herman and Anna Navarra weren't that brilliant. I mean, they were nearly indestructible, but they didn't really do anything cool with their robot limbs. And in theory, those are the limbs that were developed, 25 years after all this stuff. And this stuff looks fucking amazing. It's designed to look like the plastic prosthetics that are used in modern prosthetics. Where there's a guy who was barred from competing in the Olympics in China because, as a runner, because his legs were robotic implant things.
Did he have lasers as well?
I think they called them blades.
Yeah.
And they were like 15% more efficient than a human ankle. So it was actually they cited that as one of their kind of inspirations for why this is sort of relevant, and all the augmentations follow that style, so it's very kind of close to now and looking very kind of sleek and modern. Whereas Deus Ex 1, it's metal limbs, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sarif Industries is, I think it's the one that you're working for as a security guard right at the start, so it would make sense if she's with you from the start of the game. The thing I love about her is that she has iPhone thighs.
It's the most convenient place to keep them, probably.
Well, I did laugh at it, and then I thought, actually, if you're a pilot and you're sitting down in a seat all the time, you probably wouldn't need them kind of about there.
That does actually make sense. So, Tom, just to check with he's a security guard then. Is he a security guard for Sarif Industries? Is that kind of more than just kind of more cop security guard, or is he a badass, or is he?
They haven't talked a lot about it, but I think, yeah, you're more than just a sort of night watch dude babysitting a back door or something. You are kind of closer to a bodyguard, I think. The ambush in which you lose your arms is while you're escorting some researchers from Sarif Industries who are going to be giving a presentation on some new discoveries they made about augmentation. I think it might be nano-orgs, it might be kind of their ushering in the next phase, I don't know. So yeah, the fact that you're in charge of guarding them suggests you're a pretty high up dude. This bit is Detroit, I think I'm right in saying, and I love stuff like this. Like, I get excited about concept art anyway, but like stuff like this in particular, where it's a futuristic city with rain-slick streets and all neon lights and reflections and stuff, just gets me really excited for how the cities look. Like Deus Ex, it's very much kind of globe-trotting feel to the structure. So you're just wherever your next mission takes you, you just fly out there in a helicopter and you're there in seconds. I really like that about Deus Ex. I loved arriving in Hong Kong is one of the moments everyone always talks about, and it's kind of impressive that they do, because Hong Kong in Deus Ex 1 wasn't that impressive really.
No, it was some kind of weird mishmash of old temples and just walls. Right?
Yeah, it ended up being a great experience to play through, but it didn't really look much like a city or any kind. I haven't seen Detroit in action, but I've seen Shanghai. I'll get to that later because there's some art of that.
When is this actually set from now? How far in the future is this?
2027.
Because that's quite a big shift for Detroit, right?
Wait till you see Shanghai. Yeah, if you zoom in, that's the sign in the top there. You can see is Sarif Avenue. So Sarif Industries is based in Detroit. They took over all the old factories and plants that used to make cars after cars became completely unprofitable. So they tried to sort of retrofit it into the credit crunch and
Everybody's running on their robot legs instead.
Yeah, so they bought up all the old factories and became like a massive industrial giant for augmentations off the back of that. And I also love that the thing underneath it is called an electric pump. I don't know if it's supposed to be pump.
Electric circumstance, is it?
It just manufactures pump. This is Shanghai.
That looks amazing.
It's actually, this looks like a screenshot, which is weird because we've got some screenshots that look a lot like concept art, but it's labelled as concept art. And I actually saw a bit of this running, and it looks every bit as good as this. It actually looks kind of more colourful. They're going for more kind of, every little stall has its own completely different coloured neon lights, so it's really kind of multi-coloured. It's not actually Shanghai itself that you go to in this game. It's an island off Shanghai where another rival cybernetics firm made their mark, and they got so successful that they took over the whole island, turned into this huge metropolis, and then they wanted to expand from there because they were still growing and growing, but the Chinese government wouldn't let them expand to any other areas, and so they just built another layer on top of Shanghai, and you'll see that in a bit.
I like the use of the kind of the light and the gold, particularly the way the lights overflowing and you can't quite make out what the lights are. But I've seen kind of a lot of the other art as well. Seems to have kind of a neo-Renaissance feel with all the gold and stuff.
Yeah, that's something I'll talk about it a bit because we'll see more of it in the concept art. But the Renaissance stuff isn't as evident in shots like this, where it's just in the basic streets. They're all done in a very kind of Blade Runner-y style. Yeah. But they put a lot of technology into making the lights look like this in game. With like a sort of fogging effect, and the analogy they use is that fogging to them is what water is to Bioshock, so all of their kind of visual technology has gone into making that look cool. Oh yeah, this is just a poster up on the upper left of that where you can see orgs being used in a kind of like promotional advertising sense, trying to make them look sexy and make them look trying to make them look more acceptable. A lot of the kind of social context of Deus Ex 3 is all about orgs and kind of them being glamorized by some people and reviled by others. And yeah, the sign you see on the right is for the Hive, which is where all the demonstration took place, or the first half of the demonstration took place, that I saw, that I wrote up in my blow-by-blow article. And it's got that hexagon motif, which is kind of ties into the both honeycomb and also the augmentation stuff that you'll see. Did it have on the? No, it didn't have it on that synthetic arm we just saw, but on Adam Jensen's head, he's got these little hexagons imprinted on it. So this one you can see a lot more of the Renaissance style. They've got that plush leather armchair.
Yeah.
It's called Megan Office, this file. I don't know who Megan is, but I'm assuming she's a character with some involvement in cybernetics. The motif of Clutter is one that they identified pretty early on as being something they wanted to go really heavy on.
There's a lot of books, isn't there? I mean, considering obviously set in the future, you'd expect everything to be on computers. And
yeah, again, you see like a lot of clashing of really, really old style stuff and completely futuristic stuff, which is, I think it's a lot better than Invisible War, where it was all futuristic but a bit kind of vague futuristic. They didn't really have much of an idea for that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting
like
having kind of the March technology with the orcs and then kind of maybe dropping other technology because this is more important or impressive. Or
yeah, and the whole org revolution basically is supposed to be a sort of analogue for the Renaissance, and that's why the Renaissance art style creeps in here and there. And you can see on the screen behind there's a mention of a limb clinic. That's where you go to get orgs installed in the game and in the fiction. So you start with robotic arms because those get ripped off in the intro and it would kind of suck if you had to buy them. But if you want the jumping org and the falling org, then you get you get new legs basically. And all of these upgrades that you get change your appearance in some way, so you become more robotic as you upgrade yourself. You can, if you like, specialise just in a few orgs, because it's the in-game money that you buy them with, so you can spend that money on something else if you like, and you won't necessarily be underpowered for doing that, because a lot of the coolest stuff that you get access to is through experience rather than through money. So if you've got your robot arms to begin with, and there's like 5 or 6 different things you can do with those things that you just unlock through experience. So you get like 1,000 experience points, you can unlock the punch through walls ability, or you get 500 and you can unlock the dampen recoil ability.
So how would you get experience points? Is that just a case of punching people and then you get more punching powers?
Yeah, it's for killing people, it's for getting through a level stealthily, i.e. not killing people, it's for completing main objectives, it's for completing side objectives, it's for talking to people, it's for finding hidden areas and stuff like that. It's just anything good you've done. It's actually, I asked them exactly that question, all their answers made me think of, not of Deus Ex 1 itself, but of the shifter mod for it, because that redistributed the skill system to make sure that you would get rewarded no matter how you went about your objectives.
So would characters change their approach to you if you are completely cyborg man turning up on the doorstep, or?
I would think so. I didn't ask them that specifically, but they certainly change their attitude towards you depending on how you behave in the missions. Like if you kill people rather than knocking them out or slipping by, that has the kind of the same effect as the arms master in UNATCO in the original, where he'd actually give you more ammo if you hadn't killed many people in the previous mission, which was a bit counterintuitive.
Please kill more people.
This next one, also Detroit, I just think it's an awesome image. I think I must have seen this in a trailer at some point, because I remember seeing that big face on those 4 screens moving, but it's just a really cool, I think it's a good mix of futuristic ideas but without any particular futuristic technology here.
Yeah.
It's just, obviously this thing people really didn't like about Invisible War was it was too futuristic and had no real connection to the real world, whereas Deus Ex was set in the future but not in the far future, so it felt quite real world. If you actually look at the stuff that comes up in Deus Ex throughout the course of it, the plasma guns, the greys, the radiation and stuff, it does get pretty futuristic, but it manages to feel real world, and I think a lot of what I've seen of Deus Ex 3 does that as well.
Well, that is like kind of an augmented building in a way, like a car park with a thing on the side.
Robo car park. And
that it's still beautiful.
Yeah, I love as a journalist covering games, I like it when I see a piece of concept art that looks like it actually could be a level.
Yeah.
But just on a purely aesthetic level, I love concept art that looks like it couldn't possibly be a level. It just looks really impressionistic and just gorgeous. That's actually a limb clinic, the thing I was talking about earlier, where you get your orgs installed. Although they don't seem to be very good at drawing M's in the future.
So in the fiction, can anybody get an org installed? Is it kind of like plastic surgery?
Well, it costs money, so it's and I think it's fairly expensive both in game terms and in just for the ordinary citizen in this world, because there's supposed to be a big social rift between the augmented and the non-augmented. In some parts they seem to be emphasising the ethical objections to augmentation. Like there's a sort of humanist faction that believe in the purity of the human, and that making yourself a cyborg is polluting it in some way. But there's also just an economic divide where a bunch of people can't afford to be augmented, and so since there are not just robotic arms but social augmentations and mental augmentations that let people get the edge in other ways, it lets just anyone who's augmented become more successful than anyone who isn't.
It's like, because if you go to a bar in Deus Ex 1, you don't find that many kind of mechanically augmented people there. So.
Yeah, although the bartender in Hell's Kitchen had some kind of like weird orb, essentially. This is Shanghai, or the island of Shanghai. You know what would have been really good is if, when they were telling me about the island of Shanghai, I'd written down its name. I'm just going to keep calling it the island of Shanghai. I think internally they just refer to this as Shanghai. But the cool thing about this shot is it does actually look a bit like this in game. Like it's got that kind of throng of lights and people and stuff. It's about as crowded as that, so it's not absolutely packed, but there's people just going about their business, talking to each other, walking around. And the best thing about the shot is that there's a ATM on the left.
Yeah,
so you go to hack ATMs again. That's clearly confirmed.
Was it on the ground floor, or is that on the...
this is the lower levels, yeah. I think you can actually... I don't know for sure that's what it is, but in the very top of this image you can see that it's sort of covered over rather than being open sky.
So these were the
and I'm pretty sure that's the underside of the next floor of the city. And it tends to be like the poorer areas underneath and the more successful, newer areas with all the augmented people that are kind of on top.
Is it still lit, or is it dark all the time down there?
Everything I saw of it was dark. As you're flying into it, it's kind of sort of the mission I saw that takes place there. It was kind of dusk, so there's like sunset going over, and a lot of these levels seem to be like lit with that golden glow from the side. But yeah, everything I saw was dark. All the art we've seen is dark. The only time the game is light is when you're indoors. Ages and ages ago, I did an interview with the game director when this was first announced, and one of the things he said that made me really like slap my head was that there was going to be daytime levels, but I still haven't seen any evidence of that, and hopefully they've just backtracked. This is back to Detroit. This is fairly an interesting image of just the police station there, although it's sort of interesting that you have some dealings with the police. The main reason I want to talk about this is that if you look at the wanted poster on the top left, it turns out to be someone rather familiar. I don't think that the person who approved these assets for release saw that. I think that was a little joke on the artist that thought, oh, this will never get out, it's just internal concept art. But they seem to be accusing George Bush of mass murder, or at least suggesting that the people in their world, in their alternate history, alternate future, consider him in less than Von terms.
It's a fair point.
It's strange that in 2027 they would still be after him though, and that he would look exactly like he does today.
Maybe he's been augmented.
Lying on the guy's desk there's these little rap sheets for some kind of criminal with a bizarre looking neck. I don't know who the hell he is.
Why'd you get your neck augmented?
I don't know. This is, I think it's my favourite bit of concept art that we can show you. I should say that this is actually less than half of all the assets we've got, but these are the only ones that are approved for online use. So in our feature we're able to use a bunch of really cool artwork that I can't show you here, but this is definitely the best one we can talk about. This is the office of the head of Sarif Industries. I can't remember his first name, but his surname is Sarif, obviously. And it's like a really good showcase for how it mixes kind of fancy old world stuff like that plush leather chair and the whole kind of look of that room. It looks like a marble floor, it isn't, but it's very kind of palatial and there's sculpture everywhere and stuff. And they're mixing that with the very futuristic stuff. So one of the things I love about what they've decided about how the way this future works is that rather than going by purely modern day standards where we all look at tiny little monitors and sit at our desks, And rather than going a Minority Report thing where there's no screens at all and it's just these kind of holographic interfaces, they've just gone to the logical extreme of our current situation where there's just fucking massive screens. So that whole back wall is just one giant TV screen, and he's actually browsing the web on it. That's a baseball stats site he's looking at. He's clearly a fan of the Detroit Tigers. I'm not ashamed to say I had to look up who the Detroit baseball team was.
They were in the World Series a couple of years ago, weren't they?
But I don't really even know what the World Series is. I think they hit balls in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, in addition to all like the kind of futuristic stuff and the kind of stuff you'd expect from a powerhouse CEO, there's also some nice little hints of him being a baseball fan, like the little baseball cap on his next to his desk, and a little trophy baseball in the background by the statue.